collaboration within our university, the Cuban government, and the related institutions there in Cuba. Still on a broader level, the university's desire to break new fronts and also to expand our research collaboration and frontiers. We just recently won a SWAM EU grant of over 800,000 euros, the Erasmus program. And this is aimed at revolutionizing sustainable plastic management and recycling practices in higher education in Africa. Our university is one of the consortium, and the program has already started. And in a few months from now, the first and second work packages will start, which has to do with capacity building in recycling of plastic and utilization of plastic. This university is part of that global arrangement, and we've also been informed that the kickoff meeting will be taking place in South Africa between the 8th and 9th of May. Our university will also be there in attendance. Furthermore, Mr. Guest Speaker, I told him my office during your courtesy call that this university is unique and driven by our mantra. Our mantra here is to produce future-ready graduates. These are graduates that meet the open market demand and the market space demand for professionals. In other words, every graduate that we produce from Igbenedion University meets global market demand. And so we have been able to achieve this through our master classes. I also mentioned to you that a typical college lecture series is not just a college lecture series. It's also a master class where knowledge is exchanged, and more importantly, where new concepts and new ideologies and new traits are also taught to the participants. And so today, you will hear from our guest speakers the theory and practice of pharmacy and community health and public health, which is what we require dearly in this country at this time in need. So, dear speaker, we invite you to take advantage of this visit to leave a lasting footprint in knowledge exchange, which is part of the hallmark of our disposition in this university. In this university, we also pride ourselves in our campus-wide digital disposition. And so in most of our programs, we ensure that we have a digital component. And that is why we have a hub, an IT hub in this university for upscaling and also for improvement of our IT knowledge. Did I forget to mention to you that in the next 2 months, part of our entrepreneurial program, which is again a flagship of this university in terms of practice, theory, and practice, 18 of our students from the entrepreneurial 300 level class that have just finished the exhibition, and 2 lecturers that are part of that program will be heading off to China under the sponsorship of China's government. And so, beyond collaboration, beyond industrial academia fusion, beyond digitalization of knowledge, this university is known first in most of its activities. And at the end of the day, we produce graduates that meet and fit the demands. The same thing is happening in the College of Pharmacy. Our students have been excelling locally, continentally, and globally. And I hope that this present set of pharmacy students will also join in blazing the trail and in growth trajectory. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me once again welcome our guest speaker and welcome you all to the first private university in this country with certificate number 001 And as I mentioned, certificate number 001, I remember our Honorable Chancellor, the founder, our proprietor, Sir Chief Dr. Gabriel the Millennium, CFR, the SMO of Benin Kingdom, who established this university 25 years ago. And incidentally, yes, if you clap, you want to clap. It is it's an achievement that always calls for applause and acknowledgement. And so when we have an opportunity like this, we acknowledge this feat of one man whose dream has become the treasure of the whole world. It will also interest you to know that this college, the College of Pharmacy, AKUNYILI College of Pharmacy, is the first college of pharmacy in a private university in Nigeria. And in keeping with the trend, we are also one of the very few universities that have had a transition from the B Farm to the Farm D. This university is Farm D. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you can see from my face, from my smile, from my disposition, that it's my will now to declare this series open. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You may now be seated. But I believe that our Vice Chancellor deserves another round of applause, please. Moving on now, I'd like to invite to the microphone the University Orator and the Dean of Bayeridawa College of Law, Professor O.G. Izeboa, to give the citation of the guest speaker. Please, can we give him a hand?
Our very respected Vice Chancellor, may I have your permission to request our guest speaker to be upstanding for his citation. Citation on Professor Chukwuemeka Michael Baka, a renowned pharmacist and the Commissioner for Health, Ministry of Health, Imo State, a distinguished guest lecturer on the occasion of the annual pharmacy lecture taking place today, the 25th of February 2025 at the University Library Complex. This is a distinguished gentlemen and ladies. Winston Churchill once said, the pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity, while the optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty. Just as the above saying goes, Professor Chukwuemeka Michael Baka, an optimist, a doyen in the pharmaceutical world, and the Honorable Commissioner of Health, Imo State, is one man who sees every opportunity in all difficulties. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Professor Chukwuemeka Michael Baka obtained the Bachelor of Pharmacy from the University of Nsukka in 2005. After his National Youth Service in the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital between 2007 and 2008, he went back to the University of Nigeria for his master's degree in pharmacy with interest in clinical pharmacy in 2009. Professor Baka obtained a certificate of supply chain management training Perceptor in 2012. However, in 2014, he obtained a PhD degree in clinical pharmacy and pharmacy practice from the same university, University of Nigeria, Nsukka. Of course, this indeed, I must confess, is a true homebred scholar of no mean repute. Let's clap for him, please. Professor Obaka was subsequently engaged with the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime as a master trainer in 2019. And in the same year, he had a certification in production and inventory management and many other certifications. Just last year here, he had an intensive training and subsequently obtained a master's degree in supply chain head system. Professor Obaka, as is often called by friends and associates, went through the ranks and became a full professor of pharmacy practice and management in 2020. Besides the above, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Professor Obaka is a visiting scholar, Kaduna State University, Kaduna, PhD external examiner, Sefako Magato University, Pretoria, South Africa, President, Obama's Mandela Washington Fellow, 2016, Principal Investigator, 3PC Research Group, UNN, and of course, Team Lead, Pharmaceutical Chain Management Consultant. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as a result of the excessive research work of Professor Obaka and the various consultancy positions held between 2018 to 2024, it was not surprising, therefore, that he was appointed the Commissioner for Health in 2000 to lead all public health and health systems generally in Imo State. From the profile, Professor Obaka is a member of many organizations. Prominent among these are Chairman, Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Enugu, 2023, President, Senior Staff Club, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, 2021-2022 to 2022. Member, International Society of Public Health Logistician, 2012. Member, South African Society of Clinical Pharmacy, 2016. Member, International Society of Pharmaceutical Epidemiology, 2015. Member, Federation of International Pharmacists, Health Workforce and Training Group, 2010. Member, Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, 2006. And of course, member, National Association of Pharmacists in Academia, 2008. Perhaps this is more interesting. In recognition of Professor Obaka, he has received several recognition, awards, and fellowship, amongst which are: 1, he was the overall best student or participant in the ARC Academic Supply Chain Program 2019. Scholarship recipient, ARC Academic Supply Chain Training Program 2019. Master Trainer, United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, 2019. Fellow, Obama's Mandela Washington Fellow for African Leaders, 2016. Mr. Chairman, sir, this might interest you. Professor Obaka is listed in the Webometric ranking of top 500 researchers in Nigeria, 2015. Fellow, West Africa Postgraduate College of Pharmacists, 2015. Expert Preceptor in Logistics, 2012 to 2017. Best Student in the Faculty of Pharmacy, 2002-2004. Federal Government Scholar, Undergraduate, 2003-2004. Distinction Graduate, 2005. Best result in master's degree examination, 2009. And above all, best faculty lecturer, student rating, 2010 to 2016. Mr. Chairman, sir, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Professor Obaka has over 60 peer-reviewed international publications in high-impact journals, 4 chapters in book, and over 15 supply chain and public health project reports. Professor Obaka has attended 13 conferences, 6 of which international conferences attended, he presented papers. Professor Obaka is highly motivated to become a leading global consultant stroke expert in supply chain design, production, distribution, and inventory management. He also enjoys playing and watching ball, sport, and meeting people. Mr. Chairman, sir, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, permit me to invite the Honorable Commissioner for Health, Imo State, and a Celebra pharmacist to the podium to deliver his lecture.
The Pro-Chancellor, Igbinedion University, Okada, members of the Governing Council of the same university, the Capacity Vice Chancellor, Professor Lawrence Ezimonia, Fellow of the Academy of Science, the Deputy Vice Chancellor here present, the BOSA, management team of IUO, the Dean of the College of Pharmacy, other deans here present, and provosts also present. The staff of the college, who I call my fellow colleagues, students, IUO, IOU, IUO, IUO, IUO. Thank you for helping me out there. I mixed them. Other university community here present, ladies and gentlemen, let me first and foremost thank the orator. At some point, I didn't know who he was talking about. But again, if you notice the difference in the CV with that of the VC, I know I still have a long way to go. Yeah, but I'm going to catch up with him. He's many years ahead of me, but I'll catch up. I'm moving very fast, so I'm going to catch up with him. Excellent guy. Please, a round of applause for the dean. Okay. I hope, would I be controlling this, or would the person be helping me out? Okay, help him out, because I have a little bit of some infographics. You know, as a lecturer, one of the things I like being a lecturer is teaching. And that's why when people ask me, after commissioner, what would you do? I say, I'm going back to school. And one of the things I like about teaching is I look at the demography and I try to mix. Now I see quite a number of students here. So what I did in my presentation, I threw away all the technical terms as much as possible. Because at the end of the day, if each and every one of you walk out here without getting something, then it means I just wasted my whole time and took the risk to come from Ore to here. So what I'm going to do today is, as much as possible, I would break it down to very simplest terms, so that those who are technically gifted would also get from it, but those who are hearing sugar tax for the first time, SSB for the first time, would grab. So that is my intention, and I do hope that in the next 4 hours, you'll be with me. Oh, okay. So nobody wants to be here for 4 hours. Okay, maybe 3.5 hours. Is it okay? Don't worry, I'll be done in less than an hour. Then I'll get out of Okada. So do not be worried. All right. In choosing this topic, because I want to set the background. Again, just to let you know that I had a mix of ideas, because I know the kind of audience I'll be looking at. It was actually on taxation of sugar-sweetened beverages as a public health intervention. But again, one of my staff, who is the NCD director, NCD Dex officer, said, Prof, this is too technical. You'll be having a Gen Z, Gen X group, so give them something nice. That's why I set up a topic which now became a bit of a controversy when an error was made. It's sip smart. He used the word there, smart, isn't it? But the ultimate to do what? Live long. So I'm not saying cut off. At the end of the day, I'm going to say cut off. I said sip smart. It's about smartness. Now I would say why taxing sugary drinks makes sense. And I will take you through some of this, but can we move to the next slide? So I'll do some appreciations first. I like to do my appreciation before the lecture, so that by the time people are getting ready to go, we do not lose the very essence of those who made this a reality. I want to mention Dr. Seji. I don't know if there's a Seji here. Where's Seji? He's not here. Yeah, he's my first contact with Igbinedion University. I examined his PhD. And for some very weird reason, he always had faith and said, Prof, you're going to come back here and teach the students. But again, I do not know what happened. I traveled abroad to take a master's at MIT and now came back. Just very moment I came back, I became commissioner. So who knows if the vice chancellor will still permit that after I serve out as commissioner and he's still vice chancellor, if he can pay me the commissioner salary for a lecturer, I'll come back. So Dr. Seji, thank you for making this a reality. And also to the Dean of the College, Professor Adebayo Bolade, thank you very much. I knew I pressed you a bit. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to come speak. And also when a topic was given to me, I vehemently refused to take the topic. One, because they said it was going to be a public and university lecture. I didn't want it to be core pharmacy. I wanted it to be something. I am in quote, no longer a lecturer. I'm now in policy making business. I needed to tell people what exactly are the real issues. If I was to come here and talk about the helical structure of pharmacy practice, at the end of the day, it's as if I'm just teaching a class, an introduction to pharmacy class. But there are people seated here who have no business with pharmacy, and I didn't want it to bore them. So I wanted something that would tie each and every one of us together so that we'll be taking the steps to get our lives in a better position, also speak it to somebody else. So, Professor Bolade, sorry for changing the topic, but I do hope I'll do a good deal with this one. All right, but thank you very much. And also, like again, to the Vice Chancellor, Capacity Vice Chancellor, awesome guy. You know, Prof was asking me, how come you know so much about me? I said, come on, we do our due diligence. When you're meeting somebody for the first time, you do a background. And I was awed by the personality that I've had the opportunity to share a seat with. So, Prof, thank you very much again for approving. And I do hope when I apply for sabbatical, for a higher level, you'll be able to pay me. Okay, I think the person moving the slide moved too fast. Go back. Like I said, you are moving too fast. Again, it will be very incomplete for me not to mention the advocacy group who has also been championing this, who I work with. And that is the Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa. They are in the forefront of making us change our behaviors towards sugar-sweetened beverages. Because during the course of this very brief lecture, I will be hopefully putting you in that stage where you begin to have a rethink, set you aside, bring you out of the box, think, put you back in the box. And if your life is still the same and we still take the same practice, then maybe we should start rethinking the strategies. You know, people say knowledge, when we do studies, we say knowledge improves practice. I found out that is not true. I'm sure if I take a poll of all pharmacy lecturers here, all medical lecturers here, they know very much that poor dieting increases our risk for cardiovascular disease. But many of us still do what? Go ahead and take those poor diets. We have doctors who smoke. We have doctors who get drunk, who drink a lot. So the question is, why is it that we have this knowledge? Even when we have very good perceptions about these things, why don't we change that? It's difficult to change people's habits, I hope you know. Now we want government to change the habits, and that is the presentation I'll be making today. So the next slide, I think overall, I want to thank my boss, the distinguished Senator Hope Uzodimma, the executive governor of Imo State. And why do I thank him? Let's be very frank, very frank. If I was not commissioner, maybe I would not have been distinguished lecturer. I would just be another professor, isn't it? But it adds a little bit to it. And I not just only represent myself as an academic, I also represent the state. And it's important for me to highlight the kind of vision this man shares. And like I told people, I never applied for this job. He didn't know me from nowhere. He said he wanted somebody. He described the portfolio. And it was very easy for people to just zero in. I was in Spain when I got the appointment. And he said he was going to wait. And one of the things I like about him is, I'm not a politician. I don't call myself a politician. I call myself a technocrat in governance. And the very moment I shift away from that, I'll begin to lose the very essence why I'm there. Because if you wanted a politician, there are 1,001 medical personnel who are politicians. So every time I'm on that seat, I continue to look at it from the technocratic part of it. That is what I am there to do. And that is one of the public awareness programs that I'm doing right now to show that I'm different. And we're talking about change. We need to also have that change in the way we do things and the way we think, especially when it comes to governance. So I want to give him a very, very big appreciation for approving for me to come here. All right, I think I'm done with thanks. Now the highlights. These are my highlights for this. Is sugar sweet? There's a bitter side of sugar. I'm going to let you see the bitter side of sugar. Next slide. Yeah, the sugar I'm talking about are those with your sweetened beverages. I did not call any brand. I did throughout, I'll be saying SSBs, sugar sweetened beverages. I'll be using that word. At some point, I'll switch to SSBs. But I'll tell you what SSBs are. But I'm sure from the picture, you know where I'm heading to, right? I'm going to tell you why SSBs are not too good for you. Next slide. You know, that's a glucometer for those of us who know. It's used to measure what? Blood sugar, isn't it? That picture just tries to show us the health implication of the excess SSB consumption. Did you notice what I said? Excess. I didn't say SSB consumption. Did you notice? Excess. So it means at what point are we consuming too much? I'll let you know in the course of this presentation. And lastly, the major thing that we'll be talking about today. The next slide, please. Tax. People don't want to hear about tax anymore. MTN is taxing us, yeah? Which other tax is dealing with us again? If all four forms, telecoms, electricity, yeah? This one is good tax. Is there something called a good tax? I was telling the VC, it's called a sin tax. Sin, you know when you sin, when you commit sin, and you are supposed to get forgiveness, you know, you pay a price for it. So for those of us who indulge in SSB, excessive consumption in SSB, we are saying it's not good for you. So we'll penalize you. Watch it, we'll penalize you. So that when we get that money from you, we use it for public good. Did you see the connect? We're not penalizing everybody. Unlike, you know, EDC or IKDC, I don't know which one, do electricity here. It does not care who you are. It just gives you a bill. But this time around, it's for those who are indulging in excessive consumption of SSBs. We will tax you. I'll begin to use those monies to begin to build more health centers or even do some more pro-health campaigns. So next slide. These are the highlights of, these 4 highlights simply are the things I'm going to be talking about today. So let's get it started. Next slide. Oops, I didn't know that was going to be tiny. I hope you can see that. Okay, let's set the perspectives quite right. I'll give you just a background. So, but at some point I'll focus on 2. Now, Africa, we're Africans, isn't it? Every problem, every indices for Africa is just too terrible. Every health indices. We have the highest prevalence, the highest incidence. And even when we adjust the prevalence for the next 20 years, we have the highest of all classes of non-communicable diseases. All. Diabetes, hypertension, cancer, asthma, any of the COPD, that is respiratory tract diseases, all, atherosclerosis, all. Africa accounts for number 1. In fact, even quite terribly, infectious disease, that's antimicrobial resistance. By 2050, 40 million people are expected to die in Africa. Why are the indices just too poor for us? Now, this can be prevented, hopefully, if we have dietary modifications, because we have shown that dietary modifications can help reduce these frightening indices, and for us to also improve our living. Excess, I keep using that word, excessive sugar consumption, especially from SSBs, is linked to some of these, and this is by studies, both meta-analysis and systematic reviews. It's proven, despite what the naysayers are saying. But there's a big problem, which I'm sure the VC also mentioned. There's a rising healthcare cost. I'm going to give you a slide to give you an understanding of what it is to treat diabetes for 1 year. I'm going to give you a slide. The rising healthcare cost is frightening, especially with the inflations we're having now currently in the country. And guess what? Nigeria is always highest almost in everything. We are the highest consumers of SSB in Africa. We consume the most. No surprising reason why we have most of the non-communicable diseases in highest incidence. But however, if we can reduce this consumption through taxation, tax, because we have tried on behavioral campaigns, it's not working. Let us tax. Now, when a child begins to put his hand in fire, say, stop putting your hand, stop putting your hand, it's until you bring cane. He listens, isn't it? Let's flog a little bit, but for good. It's not a bad tax, it's a good tax. Maybe we can use it to improve our public health and also the global health in the real global perspective. Next slide. Now, of still those same perspective, I'm going to focus on 2. The rising healthcare cost. Do you know that spending on just NCD is driving us into poverty? I was telling Prof. An average professor, let me just use, okay, professor, yeah, it's open secret. An average professor, when he takes his pension, will probably be earning 40% of his salary for the rest of his life after he takes the annuity of 40%. Do you know that that salary, that pension afterwards he takes monthly can barely buy his drugs? If he has hypertension, he can help. But if he has hypertension, diabetes, you know they coexist. He cannot take care of himself. And these are supposedly people we call the upper middle class or middle class if it's existing. We are not even talking about the poor people, where the incidence of these diseases are more. I will tell you the reason why. So it's driving a lot of us into poverty. And the thing is that government can help prevent this now so that we don't spend money for the future. Next slide. The second point I want to also put, because these two are going to help guide us. The next, yes, like I said, we are so much the highest consumers that the second and third, South Africa and Algeria, both of them combined, we are still more than two of them. Is that bad? All we do is just, and there's a reason why I'll tell us. We are shifting our healthy habits. That's the truth. With the rising cost of inflation, our habits, our eating habits is shifting. Because we see the alternatives as essentially as cheap. Cola and bread. I'm sure today, half of Nigeria would have drank cola or any other fizzy drink and bread. When I mean bread, buns, donuts, that's what I call bread. Half of the country would have taken that. Because you cannot have, you know, when we teach you people in pharmacy and in medicine, DASH diet, if those in final years, you know about DASH diet. Dietary approach to stopping hypertension. We say eat fresh fruits, vegetables, reduce alcohol, stop smoking. I always pause at that point, they say fresh vegetables and fruits. Do you know how much it is to buy a pawpaw now? Do you know how much it is to get a bunch of banana now? I don't know whether we are getting this. And it is causing people to shift. And the concern is what is going to happen 10, 20, 30 years from now. So in fact, I like it that they have quite a number of young people here. At some point, I hope, like I said, at the end of the day, if you were to reduce your consumption of SSB, even if you don't stop, I'm telling you, we see figures that shows in 20 years, what we call quality adjusted life years. How much of your quality life would you have added? Modeling has shown it. And it's something I practically just have to stop. And I've stopped my kids from doing that. Not fully stop. What I do is I don't buy it for them anymore. If they get it outside, okay, one off. But we have to take that practical stand because I fear for them. Surely most of us here have some form of genetic predisposition to hypertension. I hope you know. It's not a hidden thing. In fact, the VC mentioned it. Almost everybody after 50. My professor, Professor Ago, I will tell you, at the age of 50, you will know what will kill you. You would know. You know the disease you start spending until you die. So I'm sure everybody 50 years old is saying, this guy seems to be saying something correct. That's true. And the worst is that the age mobility is getting lower. 30, 40 years old are now having hypertension and diabetes. I hope you know. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about the what we are predisposed to. And again, these are the guys that cause the problems, the health problems. Why? Because we take them in excess. Okay, let me talk about the drinks. Then we'll now go to what I mean by the excess. The examples, sugar sweetened carbonated soft drinks. You know what they call soda and cola drinks, eh? You know what we call fizzy drinks, the reddish yellow ones. I won't call any name, you know. Reddish yellow one. The one called citrus-based, orange-based drinks. Energy drink. I don't want to even give you an example. All manner of energy drink is out there now. But the one they'll promise you whatever muscle and whatever energy level it will give to you. Those guys are sweetened. I will show you their free sugar levels on the other slide. Fruit flavored, not 100% fruit juice. Fruit flavored. And you know, one of the things they've told them, they should always write it there, fruit flavored. You don't say 100%. If it's not 100%, you don't write 100%. In fact, some people were marketing some drinks in Kaduna when I was doing my youth service at 100%. They call it 100% fruit juice. I said, no, if it's 100%, it cannot be this price I'm buying it. It's not possible. I want to beat my chest. There is almost no 100% fruit drink in this country, except if it's selling at that outrageous price. You know what it is to concentrate a single orange. Do you know the tin tomatoes you guys eat? It's not full tin tomato. There's a lot of starch, akpu in it. Now you don't know. No, but we need to be very frank with these things. It is not. Let's not be deceived. Other ones are sweetened teas and coffees. The one that is popular in Nigeria is the iced tea, sweetened iced tea. But many of us don't usually consume that. We usually consume the other three that are upward. Now, let's go to the next slide and see where the problem is. Wow. WHO says you can take free sugars, but there's a daily requirement for free sugars. What is it? 16 spoonful, or what we call 25 grams. I hope you know what I mean. Not tablespoon. Teaspoon is the small one used for making tea. It says at most teaspoonful, 6 teaspoonful for an adult. Okay, let's go to what we've been drinking. Most regular coolers are 330 cl, isn't it? Now, what is the range? 9 teaspoonful, isn't it? For 1 can of cola. Can. Somebody told me today she takes 4. I told her I will not embarrass her. I will not call. The VC knows the person, but I will not call the person's name. The other one says he takes 2. His own is even better. He takes 2. And I told them I was going to show them this. So let's assume 4. 4 times 9 is 36. The daily limit is 6. So the person is doing 6 times. Am I correct? 6 times over. Why the other person is doing 3 times over? Iced teas. Okay, let me go to energy drink. Energy drink, 6 to 8, slightly moderate. But people abuse energy drink, mix it with different whiskey and brandy and rum. Do you know the problem with all this? There's absolutely no nutritional value. Absolutely no nutritional value for the SSBs. It is just sugar and carbonated water, full stop. I want that to sink in. Somebody told me that, have you noticed in the advert? Okay, the person is here. Let me call his name, the PRO. He said in the adverts, you know, it's targeted adverts, just says, it is refreshing. You know, we see somebody jogging. Oh, after you are jogging, you are sweating. Why don't you say take ice water? You say, no, an ice cola is refreshing. And in that refreshment, it is adding to obesity. It is adding to your risks for cardiovascular disease. Remember, we didn't say it causes it. It adds the risk. Do you know the fact that you are black is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease? I hope you know. The fact that in your family, nobody here can tell me, no person in his family, either vertical or horizontal, whether it's at second generation, has never had a cardiovascular disease in Nigeria. It's not possible. That's second. Okay, let's leave gender. Now you add SSB. You know the problem with risk factors? When they begin to multiply, your risk for getting that disease is what we call a multiplicative effect, not an additive effect. What do I mean? The fact that your parents had diabetes and you are taking SSB, you have doubled your risk. I didn't say, okay, double is times 2 also. You have doubled your risk as against somebody who is taking SSB and does not have a family history. That's why when we do the Framingham index for risk into what do you call it, into cardiovascular disease, when your risk factors begin to add up, then you begin to see your score showing that 9 out of 10 chance by the age of 50 or 60, you must have one of the cardiovascular diseases, and it happens. Take these things, despite the fact that these studies and indicate.
They don't get this. They don't get T-Pex. They don't get T-Pex. No, T-Pex are. You don't rest for 1 year. So thereafter, you cannot take 6 months. No. Take that now. So you need to explain this objective. You understand actually your method. That is the gold standard, right?
Yes. Okay. Why I'm talking on that method? Yes.
You know method. Oral equals around steps.
These are the three components that makes all that.
You add weight. That is why the risk of obesity is high. Next impact. Next slide. Next. Now, of course, type 2 diabetes. That one is clear. Already just taking excess sugar gives you 25 or 26% increased risk. This is already modeled. You have an increased risk, meaning that 1 in 4 chance. If we have non-diabetics, people that have never had diabetes or probably do not have family history, we put 4 of them and continue to dose them on excess, maybe three bottles of cola every day. The risk that one of them, by a certain amount of years, 5 years or 10 years, it means that one of them will surely have diabetes. The question is, who is that person going to be? Next slide. Again, blood pressure. There's a direct correlation with blood pressure. There's a direct correlation with high lipids. Your cholesterol, people are not saying there's bad cholesterol. If you have heard of bad cholesterol and good cholesterol, we are talking of the bad cholesterol, the LDLs. I don't want to go too technical. It begins to accumulate. And also it causes inflammation. And when there's inflammation, of course, that's another different problem on its own. Next slide. In fact, at some point, when I started to have tooth decay, I was almost thinking maybe it was the SSBs I was drinking when I was much younger. Because I have a lot of dental caries. I have to go doing refilling up and down all the time. Do you know to do a dental caries surgery, just a filling now, it's almost 200,000. Or you don't know, pray you don't visit the dentist. Pray you don't visit, except you have NHIS. It's a lot of money now to clean your teeth. A lot of money. And this again is one of the direct effects of excessive sugar sweetened beverage consumption. The next one and the last one, our liver. Liver was not going to be spared now. Did you think the liver would be spared? See an example of a healthy liver. This is the one we eat in the market when we go to the shops to eat, Abby. Imagine being given this one in a restaurant. That's what we call fatty lipid accumulation, fatty liver disease. There's an accumulation of fat in the liver and it causes liver dysfunction. Next slide. Okay, now, the economic impact. All right. I hope you can see that small arrow there. Can you see that red arrow? That's where we are. If you trace it there, is how much? How many thousand? Okay, currently, annually now, if you have diabetes, type 2, not type 1. Type 1 is more expensive. That's the one you use insulin only. This one is if you're using oral hypoglycemic agents. 400,000 every year. This is direct cost. We are not of indirect cost. Indirect cost of your transportation to the hospital, your bed. No. Direct medication cost. Now it's 400,000. Okay, some people can afford it. Let's say I can afford it. And let's say God gives me life. I live until 2050. I'll pray to live to 2050. I should be getting ready 1 million. See? By then, I'll be probably taking pension. How much is 1 million in my pension? I don't know whether you guys are beginning to think of this. There's a huge cost burden for that. This is just for diabetes. I didn't add hypertension because 60% of people are comorbid for the two of them. When I mean comorbid, have the two. It's very difficult to separate both of them. We are now studying HIV hypertension. I have a PhD student that did HIV. Initially, when she came up with that, I said it's not possible. I don't know, there's a large prevalence now of HIV with hypertension. We've not found the direct cause because that was not our lead. We're looking at management. I'm sure people are looking at that. So I want to put these things to you to say where these things are leading us to. And if you guys are not going to change, we'll probably have to force you to change. And that's what we are going to do. Next slide. There's some addiction. This is a study on addiction. Some people have argued, not some people, the industry argues that there's no addiction to cola drinks. But studies have started to come out. And they are funding studies to show the negative. But funding studies that are not being funded by industries are beginning to show that people are having withdrawal symptoms. In fact, if I was to do a one-day study, the one that will happen in the VC's office, the said person that says she takes 4 says that without taking that food, it's tasteless. They take 1 for each meal and 1 for the road. Now, if you were to withdraw that drink from her, I've let it out, a her. Okay, there are many hers here. If you withdraw the drink from her, she will have craving symptoms. Let her try it. I dare her to try it. Because this study removed it for 3 days. Significantly, people were having cravings. They put people on SSBs and non-SSBs. The craving in non-SSBs, milk and water, was lower, while the cravings for SSB was huge. That's the only way we are going to show addiction. But of course, the industry is fighting hard so that we don't prove that SSD. But people are coming in to begin to prove that SSB is there's an addiction with SSB. So with this addiction, let's move next slide. Let's go to the major reason why I'm here. The tax master is here. Sugar tax, isn't it? It should be a good one. Do you think it's going to be a good tax if you tax sugar? Okay, I'm seeing somebody saying no, somebody saying yes. Okay, you guys think I'll say everybody pay 10 naira from your salary or from your stipend as students to government for tax, isn't it? That's what you think the tax is about. No. We're going to embed that tax in that drink you're drinking. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Let's break it down. Okay, this is an idea. This is just to show you that there's tobacco tax, I hope you know. There's alcohol. Oh, do you think alcohol is not taxed? It's taxed too. No, okay, beautiful. He asked how. Beautiful question. It's not as if you go to the market. Someone now tells you, I want to buy a bottle of Hero. No, they say Trophy is popular here. You want to buy a Trophy. You say, okay, Trophy is 1,000 naira plus tax, 100 naira. Nobody does, except maybe they're saying service tax. But that tax has been paid for from the manufacturer to the wholesaler. So once Trophy, I don't know who makes Trophy, but if Trophy bottling company comes and tells government, we have produced, I think it's bottles, maybe they measure it by bottles, 50,000 bottles today. I'm sure there's a government person there that is taking record. 50,000 bottles, selling price is 900 naira. That's wholesale price is 900 naira. If it's 10%, that makes it 990 naira. That's why if you notice sometimes they'll say, it's because government is taxing us. That is why we're increasing price. I don't know if you heard people say like those things are all lies. We'll come to that. But I want you to pay, I asterisk the SSBO. I asterisk it particularly. You see those percentages there? WHO says that we should be taxing SSBs 20%. In fact, at the end of these, we should be taxing whether 20% or 50%. Now, see what it will do. Let's move line because I want to show us something. Let's go to the end. The other place I have another red gap, which says value for money. That is the life of years we have over the revenue that is generated. Did you notice that if we were to tax at 20%, it tells us that the value of years we'll have, that is for the employed people, is 33,000. But see the jump. More than almost 100% jump. Did you see that? What is telling us that the more we tax, what this whole graph says, that the more we tax, even if this is just illustrative, the more years, public productive years will begin to add to people in the long run. So this is something government should be looking at. But the problem is, should we just only tax? No. We should use the tax well, isn't it? That's the point. I'm going to come to that point at the end. But let's just base on tax. Let us understand what sugar tax is so that when we move to how we should use it, then we'll begin to get a better feel. And maybe by then, I'll buy more of you over to stop some of these things, consumptions we are doing. Next slide. All right. SSB tax. It's a public health policy need, and I'll explain. The tax is a tax on drinks that are high in sugar content, such as, you know the example, soda, soft drinks, energy drinks, and coke. As at 2 years ago, in fact, as at today, almost 90% of all countries in the world are now charging a tax. 90%. In fact, I think Lancet quoted 93%. But let me just say over 90% as at 2024. They've imposed a task. But do you look at the last part? It says they impose a percentage per content tax. That's one of the places Nigeria made a big error, but I'll come to it. Our own is a fixed tax. But this guy says percentage. Do you know how much Nigeria charges? It's written there, 10 naira per liter. But we know that most cola drinks are not liter. They are in CL, 300, let me say 300 CL. So it means we are charging 3 naira. For every cola you get, it's 3 naira. Do you know how much I bought? Is in ICEL. Is it ICEL? I went to eat in something in the state. It says ICEL or seal. Do you know they charge me 700 naira for, not me, these ones that went and drank it, my aides. They charged them 700 naira for a drink. But they were arguing that this is 500 naira outside. Why? When they were arguing, they didn't understand where my thoughts was going. So for 700 naira, government got only 3 naira. That was what I was saying. So why they were arguing 500 versus 700? In my head, I say we've lost a lot of money in this. That's why one of our advocacy, we are pushing for a review. You know why? As at that time, in 2021, when it was added in finance tax, it was probably 100. I'm sure 21. Cola was around 100 naira. So maybe 100 naira, I don't know. But now, instead of them to have done it on a percentage basis, they are losing. So we are calling for a review. In fact, we have an advocacy team in Ministry of Health pushing for this review. Review it away from 10 naira per liter and take it to 20% per what do you call it, per bottle or can or whatever, per presentation. 20%. So if you want to drink it, you pay for it. So that less people will drink it. We think that can force behavioral change. Since we have been talking, nobody's hearing. Let us use another method. Now, but what are the core objectives? Now, to increase the retail price of the SSBs, we want to increase the retail price. You know, as alcohol is becoming expensive, fewer people are drinking more bottles. I hope you know. As Prof knows, in the staff club, things have changed. Before people come and declare, give everybody. Even as commissioner, I don't declare again. They say, which kind of commissioner is this one? I said, things are hard. Things are hard everywhere. Even in commissioning, things are hard. So we want to increase the price so that less people drink it. If you want to drink it, you pay the excise tax, we get money for public good. So you are doing well for us. To raise public awareness like I'm doing on the implications of these, to help to still change behavioral lifestyle. There are alternatives, I hope you know. This is an alternative. Milk, I won't call their names because I don't want to push any brand. There are unsweetened milks and yogurts, I hope you know. Most of us will go for the chocolate one. Clearly, once it's written unsweetened, I go for it. And I use it to make smoothie. The banana smoothie, if you know how to do banana smoothie with and granite, just add all into blender and blend it. Very high calorie drink. But if your sugar is, banana has sugar. So if your sugar is, take a little sip, it can you can spike your, banana has a high glycemic index. So to also reduce sugar intake, to generate revenue for governments, and also to make sure the industry changes. Do you know, it is quite interesting. Mexico, South Africa, Saudi Arabia have forced industry to reformulate. Some have gone towards non-sugar sweetening agents. But do you know that in Saudi Arabia, the tax is so heavy on SSB that while their demand for SSB reduced by 50%, the demand for naturally based drink increased by 50%. What does that tell us? South Africa is taking care of that angle of the risk factors that will cost its people a lot and the system a lot of money in years to come. That is futuristic. They were bold about it and they did it. 50%. Nobody said you should not take it, but pay for it. If you are so craved about it, pay for it. Sure, when you drink 2-3 times, after 2 weeks, you check your bank account, you know it's not worth it. Next slide, please. Now, I know this may be far. Everything you see on green, every country you see on green as at 2021, 2022, have imposed SSB tax. Then those on blue have not yet. But like I told you, in 2024, most of the world map has become what? Green. Like you see in Nigeria, 2022, 2021, we signed the Finance Act was released. 2022, it became implemented. Currently, government is correcting 10 naira per liter, which amounts to, I think we see $36 million, paltry. What is $36 million that will do for us in the health program? Even for primary healthcare redevelopment of the country alone, $36 million is so paltry. There was a study by Onwujekwe et al. They wanted to check if this sugar tax can help to subsidize surgery in the whole Nigeria. Surgery. Do you know the funny thing? They said the $36 million gotten from sugar tax was just 1% of the expenditure of surgical intervention in the country. 1%. So it means we are not taxing enough. If we want it for public good. I don't know if you understand me. If you want something to be for public good, you want it to plow it back into public, tax enough of it so that when it comes back, people will begin to see the benefits of it. Next slide. Okay. This also want to try to show that Africans and the low-income earners were the biggest sufferers. We suffer a lot from this. And the prevalence of this tax affects those groups the more. I'm going to talk to you about, towards the end, about the myth, some of the arguments they have brought against taxing. And one of them is that the poorer people are the ones that suffer the most. It's not true. I'm going to counter that myth at the end of the day. This is just to let you know that by geographical regions, Africa has also started to take steps, very great steps in introducing sugar tax. And again, that those who are usually at the end of the public health implication are those of the lower earning group. Next slide. Have I spent up to an hour? No, not yet. I'm moving very fast. Now, if we were to implement sugar tax, what should we do? If we were to implement it, first, there must be coordination. There's no two ways about it, and that is always the problem. Ministry of Finance, who is the taxing person, Ministry of Health. Everybody, you know, one thing about us in government, I hope this is out of record. Everybody wants to be the one coordinating. You want to be the coordinating ministry. You know the reasons why I'm not going to mention it here. But people should be able to sit together. Because do you know that the industry also thrives on breaking that correlation, that coordination? Because once you break the coordination, nobody agrees to increase the tax. I don't know if it's making sense. Somebody comes, two ministries come. If those two ministries can agree, let us come together and increase this tax to 20%. It would most likely work. But what the industry goes is to go and lobby one and lobby the other, and both of them will be hitting their heads together. And they'll be, at the time, this person will say, I'm the one sitting as chairman. You are co-chairman. And before you know it, all we discuss that day is just disruptions. And the industry thrives, and they continue. Again, it must be multi-sectoral. Government cannot do it alone. There are many civil societies, many advocates who can also plow in money and push for this tax to be increased and this tax policy to be implemented. And government must recognize it. And if government does not recognize it, then it means that they are not able to achieve the objectives they are going to. It is not an all-government thing. And we need to get that into our head. Even the academia, research, like I told you, do you know that when we were searching, we could only find 3 articles on SSB tax in Nigeria. People are not doing research in that area. And yet there could be funding in that. So when people begin to talk about it, in fact, in one of the slides, I don't know where, okay, it's in the next one, communication. It will shock you, even though it is quite a laughable one. You know that guy called Very Dark Man? He's a big influencer. You may be joking, you may think, what Professor Baka is doing, coming to talk to Igbenedion. If I talk to the 30, 100, Prof, you are committee of VC, how many are you? That's more, I can't even do that one. But if I do 270 public lecture, if the Very Dark Man makes one single post, that why is government not releasing that tax? Do you know it will remove everything I've labored for 4 years? That's to show you influence, impact. Don't underrate those guys. That's another level we are going to now. We want to use social media to push advocacy. It's once they can catch the balls and see the need for it, and they make a statement, government begins to listen. An influencer went to House of Assembly, House of Rep, and was talking and make influencer. Prof, have you been to speak at? See, Professor, many reputees talking, nobody's listening. So it means that we need to start changing our communication plan. And again, especially the ones people are more receptive to, isn't it? Social media is a place is a platform for you to speak to a generational demographic, and possibly they will listen. Next slide. Other implementation strategies, monitoring and evaluation, extremely important. We have to set a baseline. So then when we implement, we know exactly, are we achieving our key objectives? Super important. We need to also do some surveillance. And the next strategy, which is my own biggest wahala, industry will intervene. I'm sure, I hope nobody, if somebody asks me a question, I ask you, which industry are you from? Let me know so that we say remove conflict of interest first. The industry will always fight back. And we've continued to tell them that this is a good for both you and us. And we have shown it by studies. That it does not, all you need to do is to shift your production to healthier alternatives, or you reformulate, you would still make your money. Studies have shown that money is not lost at the production and even at the bottom line of the upper stream for industries. But yes, you know that unwillingness to change and adopt the right systems. Then the last implementation strategy, which will form the rest of my speech, a new word I brought in, earmarking. That's where the problem is again. Nigeria is taxing. I hope you know, 10 naira. Let's say whether it's insufficient, let's leave that. We are taxing. But the question of my next question is, where is that tax going to? That's what earmarking is. Maybe if one day we come here and they put up a student innovation hub for healthy living, maybe what a hub or a new student innovation center for healthy living in Igbinedion, where students go and everything there is unprocessed meals, you cook healthy, just to promote healthy meals. And there's a banner there. This project is sponsored by the federal government SSB tax. Do you know everybody in Igbinedion will say, ha, tax, is it Coke? Cola, sits very well. Because the people are now seeing the benefits. It is very incorrect to tax SSBs and use it to go and fight terrorism. That is not. No, terrorism is good, though. It's good. It's good to fight terrorism. But what was the basis for having that SSB tax? It is supposed to give back. I can tell you that alone, earmarking alone, can boost public confidence. That yes, this is coming back to public health programs, even if it's school programs. And that is what majority of the countries that are earmarking are doing. And that is why earmarking, what they are doing is they keep increasing the percentage because the public is saying, tax more, tax more, tax more. But you can't say tax more here because the people say, where is the money? Like the DVC asked me, where is the money going? We need to have that transparency and be accountable for it. So we are currently pushing for two things. Increase the SSB tax, earmark the tax. I'll show you what I mean by earmarking the tax. Next slide, please. All right. We need to be able to measure the impact of SSBs. Now we need to check, okay, we've charged SSB tax. How is it affecting the retail price of these products that are being sold? Also, the changes in affordability. We probably use the senior staff club, or no, the senior staff club is not a good place for SSB. It's only alcohol they sell there. I hope. In my own, it's only alcohol we sell there. So let me just say student center. You can check it and begin to ask, how much of cartons of, you can set it at a higher level, not retail level. How much cartons are coming in, were coming in before, and how much cartons of SSBs now? How much vis-a-vis maybe water? Because you must provide an alternative. You must provide alternative for you to stop behavioral change. Over time, countries have checked, and like I told you, Saudi Arabia, 50% reduction in 3 years. It was massive. They understood what it was doing to their people. Changes in household purchase. So we are not talking of us affordability in the house, in your own house. How much of it? So these surveys need to be done. And also, we also look at changes in prevalence of disease. But those ones are more, like Prof said, more chronic. These are chronic measures. Over the years, we begin to say, has the incidence, you know what we call incidence? New disease. But prevalence is those that have the disease already. We say in Nigeria now, 40 million people have diabetes. But they say every year, 1 million people add 1 million new diabetic patients. Prevalence may not change. It's fixed somewhat. But if we can say, okay, instead of 1 million people every year, this year we had only 500,000 people. What it means is there's a 50% reduction in incidence. And that overall changes the trend of prevalence. And when you do that, the prevalent ones, either they die, diabetes is not curable. I hope you know. Hypertension and diabetes is not curable. even spiritually. I'm a medic now. I'm very frank with it. Yes, suppose I thank God I didn't mention any church. It is not curable. It is manageable, but not curable. Everybody that tells you that he prayed and he didn't have hypertension or diabetes. Probably just had one high sugar, was hungry, or he ate too much and got bloated. So I want us to take note of that we can track the changes and see how well this our tax has been doing, but we can do that over a long period of time. And that can be very painstaking. So the other ones we are measuring are acute measurements, while the ones for checking prevalence are chronic measurements, things you can do over time. But it needs a lot of consistency to be able to do that. Next slide. I like this one. People that that's what we see. People do all manner of studies. But you know the beauty of meta-analysis or systematic review? It will pack all the studies together and begin to remove the bias, small. You'll be seeing the bias. At the end of the day, you see 10 studies, and yet there's no single conclusion you can make out of it. It's totally negating what you are saying. And that is why the advocates are using systematic reviews to counter the industrial claims. But they're fighting back because they have money for lobbying. They have the money for lobbying. But there's a little much you can lobby. There was something Prof was telling me about the Vice Chancellor, where it says organophospham, or what did you mention? Yeah, endosulfan, these pesticides that were killing, that were entering and killing the aqua life, and yet people were still promoting it. He said overtures were brought to him. They will come to lobby you. If you don't agree, threat to life comes in. So some of these things we are doing it's not a joke. Maybe because I have reached this level small, I have some bit of security I can get. But you know, the most important security is from God, isn't it? But these guys are fighting back. Let me show you what they are doing. Next slide. There are some arguments. This is argument 4, that you should not tax. Myth number 1. I will say the myths, then I'll go to the next slide and explain the lies. I'll show you the truth. Sugar sweetening beverage tax is regressive. It's old thing. Why are we still taxing? It's old. People should not be taxing again. And by the way, it is unfair to the poor. It's the poor that will suffer it the most. You know, every tax we do, they say it's the poor that is affected. Coal tax, electricity tax, it's the poor that suffers it. So they've joined electricity and telecommunication tax with health tax. Smart guys, isn't there? Don't worry, let's assume they are right. Let's go to myth number 2. Exercise, that is the sugar sweetening tax, will have a negative economic impact. People will lose their jobs. We will sack people because we will not be producing again. That one is even one of their biggest lies. People will not have jobs. People will be loafing around. It will increase crime. That's a big one for them. Myth 3, or what I call lie 3. Taxes on SSB is unacceptable to people. People don't like it. Why are you forcing it on them? Okay, let me even ask. After all I've said, if you are for the tax, please raise your hand. Okay, bring your hand down. If you are not for the tax, please raise your hand. Don't be afraid. I'm not one. Okay, we are winning. So you are the only guy there. You are winning. We are winning. This is 99% acceptance. So that's very good. But imagine if that thing I mentioned about marking had happened, and we are opening that health hub or health center for good feeding. I'm sure you would have changed your mind. Am I correct? It means we have shifted. You understand? People's SSB tax don't reduce consumption of SSB. It will continue to increase. No matter how much you tax, people will continue to buy. That's another myth. For me, it's not possible. If I have alternative, Do you understand what I mean? Of course, all of us have alternative. When chicken was growing high, we went to pork meat now, isn't it? There must be alternative now. Meat number 5, or people don't eat pork here. Pork is the most heavily eaten meat in the East now. Do you know cultures that don't used to eat pork before? I've started eating pork now. No, let crisis, inflation beat you. Keep eating meat. You know, fish is no go area in the East. I don't know. Okay, you people have water here. Fish is no go area. People eat pork now. They use pork to cook stew and soup. So, no, I'm telling you, you know how you know? Before, as a student, I studied in Nsukka. I don't think I ever saw a butcher for a pork in the market. Even if they did, I probably was not. But now, you know, on the streets, people are butchering pork, and not just, they are roasted. Pork roast is now a common thing. You just use toothpick. It's more, people eat it now more than suya. You know, suya is outrageous. In fact, I don't even know what suya we're eating again. I don't know what we are eating. And people preach the healthy part of pork, so long it is roasted and it kills any of those pork worms. So people, I'm telling you, people are changing. If you guys are not changing in Benin here, we are changing. You know? We are changing over there in the East. You have fish, you can continue to eat your fish. But this is a good protein. Then the last myth, it does not work in any way. It has no effect on obesity or diabetes. Can you imagine? For people to come out boldly and push this narrative. It's shocking, isn't it? Something that's like a truth, but people just, because they want to sell, change the narrative. So let's go and look at the debunking. The next slide, we debunked it. Sorry, on my laptop, this thing looks small. I don't know, it's this big. Is this tiny? Truth number 1, I'll just read it. SSB tax is a progressive one, and poorer households are more likely to benefit from the tax if it is properly earmarked. Are you following me? If we push it into primary health care, is it not the poorer people that would benefit? Poor households consume more SSB. True or false? Oh, okay. I didn't know you guys knew about that. But people like VC that has so much money, they don't want to die any soon. So they take healthy things, just one bottle of beer a day, one what. You know, the richer you get, the more conscious of your health. There's the kind of money you have. You don't want to die early now. You cannot do that. You've been watching, the doctor says, no cure. No. So, but the poor man does not have an option, isn't it? He will continue to drink Coke. If the Coke is the cheapest, he will buy Coke. His cola is, in fact, they won't go for there's even this one, they're not going for the alternative brand do you know everybody's not producing cola? There's one new name I saw in a carton. Only God knows what people are producing now. And people are cheaper. This one is 250 naira, as against the other one, 450. They will go for that one. And you know it's coloring, pure coloring. Maybe the other one even has small, they're not so wicked. This one is just coloring. And people are buying. Nobody is drinking Zobo. There's Zobo now. Zobo without sugar is a better option. Soya milk, even though expensive, is a good option. Kunu is a good option. But people are not going to this. So the poorer people that we are thinking that is not for them, they are the ones suffering the more. Truth number 2, there is no evidence in literature that employment is affected. In fact, we have 2 studies. One in Sri Lanka and one in, I think it's Simpson, South Africa, that said that even when these industries were forced to reformulate their drinks, the person in production plant is still the same person. It's sugar that is just added and removed. I hope you know. Sugar, as a pharmacist, you should know, sugar is just an active ingredient excipient that comes in a sack. Once you quarantine it and certify it that it has not spoiled, you weigh it and mix it. Simple. It's the same. So even if you are using an alternative that is not free sugar, you will still do the same thing. So leave all the old lies about employment. If you switch to a healthier alternative, you will still need man hours to be able to do it. So let's leave that one. Studies have shown it clearly that it is babadash. It's rubbish. Truth number 3. There is a strong support. Like I told you, almost every country on earth now is taxing sugars, free sugars. Almost all, globally and even locally. There are a lot of public health initiatives now facing sugars. Let it be one of those things we can change. Truth number 4. They say it does not, it does. Okay, I think I have, okay, I didn't write the Saudi Arabia here. As much as 50 to 70% in some countries have started to reduce the demand and intake of SSB. So it is working. SSB is working, but because those countries earmark their tax. I will keep repeating that until I get to earmark. They earmarked it. Nigeria has not yet earmarked. That's our problem. Lastly, the tax on SSB works in reducing the prevalence of obesity and other sugar-induced diseases. Perfect example. Case study, as my VC will say it. South Africa, it's 10% tax, not 10 naira, not 10 rand, sorry. It's 10% tax is projected to prevent 8,000 deaths from diabetes in 20 years. They have modeled it. And of course, you model based on initial results. So these guys have a focus. Imagine increasing it to 20%. People are advocating for them to get to WHO indicator of 20%. Imagine more people that will live longer. You know, these are people on diabetes. So we are not talking of that. They will save 8,000 people from dying, meaning that will add more years to them. They will live more disease-free years. It's called DALI, disease-adjusted life years. You know, it's one thing to be sick and be having complications. It's another thing to be sick and be living without the complications. The day Obasanjo mentioned publicly that he has suffered diabetes since he was 50 years old, everybody was shocked. He has lived with diabetes for nearly 40 years. And I saw one video, I don't know whether it was true, where he jumped down. I don't know if that thing was really true. Was it the one? You saw him in the book launch, still bubbling. But living, he says he's living with diabetes, but he's living without complications. Yes, I know money is involved. You know, money is involved. Good food and money is involved. So, ladies and gentlemen, these myths are all myths to continue to twist the narrative. The narrative is clear. SSBs do more harm than good. But if you must take it, no problem. Take it not in excess. And even if you want to take it, pay the price for taking it. So that when you know you're paying a premium price for it, you will no longer take the 4 bottles. You will no longer take the 10 bottles. I know people who take 10 bottles. It's crazy. And when you see them, they are very obese. Very, very obese. They are morbidly, we call it morbidly obese. You know what morbid obesity means? You know, everyone between fat and morbidly fat, that you can die at any moment. Any moment. Next slide. All right, this is about earmarking. I'll rush through it. I've started saying some of them. Setting aside a percentage, maybe all of it, of government funds that you have collected as tax and using it for a specific purpose, for example, health. It's to increase public support for the tax. It's to increase efficiency of public expenditure and to assure that the predictability and sustainability of all your health program is there because it is receiving funding. You know, one of the things about us here is whenever we have a health program and we release funds for it, people say either the government leaves or there is no sustainability plan. Let me use an example without calling a name. There's this project going on now in primary healthcare where they're digitalizing primary healthcare. You know what I mean? They're putting laptops. They are training the primary health officers in charge when I start using laptops to take. And when you ask the person, what is the funding after this to maintain? People are looking at you like, yeah, when we get to that place, we'll fly, we'll cross the bridge. But if SSB tax is earmarked, and we say that it is hardly earmarked, something called hard and soft. Hard is that once the tax comes out, 80% of the tax goes into primary healthcare for digitalization of this, and for the rest of it, it is hard marked. It's a policy. That's why we are pushing for the policy for earmarking. Choose whatever you want to be, but let it be within health. Even if it's to plow back money to awareness of further reducing SSB, it is still part of it. So Nigeria revenue from 10 naira per liter, which in my own case I say is 3 naira per bottle, is estimated to be paltrily $36 million US. It's a paltry sum. And yet, that $36 million, we don't know where it is. That's it. It has not been earmarked. Do you know that our budget is 4 to 5% of, that is health budget is 4 to 5% of the national budget. And yet, we cannot raise the funds to fund that budget. And where we have opportunity to tax those who are addicted to SSB so that we reduce the addiction from 10 bottles to 5 bottles and hopefully to 0 bottles. It's a gold mine for government to bring out money from the sins we are committing. You know, it's a sin tax. It's a sin. Next slide. I'm almost getting to the end. Now, these are the considerations we should look at when we are marking tax revenues. The public must support it because the good is greater than the bad. So the support for SSB tax is greater when it is used to support public good. And like I've taken a poll earlier, you guys told me you are for the tax. You must have clearly defined objectives to guide that earmarking. Very important, so that when we are allocating resources, everybody is aware of it. It should be transparent, and we should be accountable for any of the use of those funds. The earmarking should be flexible, but again, flexibility in Nigeria is something you must be very careful. Because if you are too flexible in earmarking in Nigeria, accountability issues will come in. You know why they say the chairman of maybe the earmarking board has power to change which public health program? Well, I don't know now. It means the contractors will start coming around. We know, VC knows what I'm talking about. Yes, when you don't strictly put something as a policy, or you give it flexibility, it is subject to abuse. That's right in the country where we are. We must continue to consult stakeholders, and we must align all of this to global best practices and our national priorities for health. Next slide. We're almost getting to the end. Now, this was just to show you an example of countries who have earmarked and the area of public health programs they have earmarked. Let me just take one country per column. France, for example, earmarked it towards coverage. They are now expanding their health coverage in France using taxes from SSB. Zimbabwe is focused on treating non-communicable diseases, diabetes, hypertension. What I like this one is that it is direct. The sugar is not really, excess sugar, even though excess sugar may increase septicemia in someone that has sepsis, but it is almost directly linked to non-communicable disease. So plow the money back to that area. Nicaragua, promoting fiscal activity. Prof, I think it's another thing you should also look at here. Do you guys do fiscal activities monthly or periodically? It's something you should look at to help this controlled system. You guys should, every month, every week, come out and do fiscal activities. I have to work out almost every day. For Portugal, unspecified health programs, they do it for all sorts of programs. Just to give you an idea that people are earmarking this into public health programs, and Nigeria should take the lead. Next, I think I'm getting to my last slide. The next slide. Okay. Now, these are my points of advocacy. Some of them I've mentioned it, but this is points I'm going to conclude. And I'll take them slowly so that we get to us. We are advocating that there should be increase in sugar tax. Far more than the 10 naira per liter we are currently having. Why? We prefer the WHO standard. 20%. I did not say 20 naira. 20% of every SSB you take. If SSB is sold at wholesale price 500 naira, 100 naira should be charged. So even if you buy 600 or 650 naira, you will cherish that thing, you will not drink more than one. We should also commence multi-sectoral policy engagements, get everybody involved. We hope that this is going to force behavioral change. In fact, I'm one of those who say that the money for earmarking should be brought to behavioral change initiatives. Let us start changing our habits. It is frightening to be very sincere. We are going to a very, very bad place in this country. And we don't have the money to sustain good healthcare. That is our problem. The structures are not there. But yet we are pushing more people into bad health status. For any industry that reformulates, even if it's a reduction in the percentage of sugar, from that 8 teaspoonful, you reduce it to 3 teaspoonful. For those who sell Diet Coke should be cheaper. You know, there's this funny thing. Is Diet Coke cheaper in Nigeria? I was in Spain, and it was very interesting. Coke and Diet Coke, or cola and Diet Cola, the price is almost half. What I mean half is, if you want to buy real cola, it's cola, sweetened cola. If that time it was 1.5 euros or something, the other one is almost about 80 what's it? Cents, have it? 8, not cents, 80, what's the lower of a euro? 80 cents, I think it's cents. 80 cents. That's something like kobo. Sometimes I say 80 kobo. It was that cheaper to force people to go and buy that. So you cannot be reformulating and still allow those who are reformulating with lower sugar to be selling at the same, no. So what they did is that they did not tax those other guys. In fact, if you reduce it by a percentage, they may give you zero tax. So you sell cheaper. Do you understand the points we are looking at now? So also, like I mentioned earlier, there should be policy provisions for those entities that provide healthy environment for eating. Let me ask this question. If you were to go to a cafeteria or a restaurant and you see boldly written there, we only sell natural, healthy foods at very cheap prices. Would you be stimulated to go inside? You'll be stimulated, right? You now go inside and say, what don't you sell? Say, we don't sell SSBs, we don't sell processed food. A friend of mine came back for a burial last week from the UK. We were in the hotel about to have a meal. They said the yam and egg sauce had finished. He said, what was left? They said spaghetti and indomie. He refused to eat. I said, why? He said, I will live where processed food is eaten in quantum, come back to my country, and I'll be eating processed food. That thing changed my mindset. It was that I like yam and egg sauce just for yam and egg sauce, but I wasn't looking at it as everything in yam and egg sauce totally is natural. Do you understand where people are thinking? He doesn't want to have processed food. He can have it in the UK, but not in his own land. And you know, luckily I live in a university town that has more food than everywhere in Nigeria. I hope you know. Nsukka has the largest variety, well, that's what they say, let me hype them. They have the largest number of local food. And I'm there eating processed food. It doesn't make sense. So if I enter a restaurant that promises me healthy meals and is at the same price, then we should continue to make such restaurants, even if it's on this campus. This restaurant is known only to sell healthy meals. The school should be able to promote it. And healthy meals includes, even if you take one bottle of Coke, finish that one bottle of Coke in a day. If you give me a bottle of the red one, I cannot even finish it. I can't even drink up to 1/3. In fact, to give you, for the past 10 years, I've not tasted a cube of sugar. 10 years. There is no sugar in my house. The only sugar that comes in my house has to be bought when they want to bake a cake for birthday. If I taste raw sugar, I know it's repulsive. I drink my tea, Milo and milk, just like that. Tea, that's tea bag, and this is just like that. Because I come from a family where historically the NCDs are there. Almost ravaging everybody. Why can't I help myself and elongate my life more? I want to live more. So let's begin to take some of this, reduce this intake amongst our children. It's very important, even amongst ourselves. But you know, for us to change the lifestyle of our children, we must change our own lifestyle. Daddy cannot be saying, don't take Coke, don't take Fanta, don't take all these drinks, and while he or she is taking. So lastly, we just need to look at continually talking to the communities, talking to university communities, talking to any form of community where we have the engagement to talk about the benefits of taxing these unhealthy products we are consuming. But not just taxing them so that the monies we get from them, as appropriate as possible, is going to be used to what? To still do or strengthen the health system that we have that is faltering. And that is all I came here to do, just to speak with you from that perspective. Next slide. I think that should be my last slide. Thank you very much.
I believe our guest speaker deserves another round of applause, please. May I now invite the Vice Chancellor to oversee the next aspect of this particular lecture. Thank you.
What we have seen this morning is dignity, and at the same time exemplified the myth around death surrounding the SSPs. The joy of today's presentation is advocacy for long life through personalized practice. Our guest speaker, must give him a very resounding ovation for what they are doing. This presentation in all the public lectures we have seen is one that has almost 95 to 97, 99 what? What? Of what? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying this presentation is one of those presentations that has 95 to 97 rapt attention. We have gone to presentation where people sleep, distracted. How many long life? When I asked it, when we started and I asked everybody to make a declaration, I declare long life for myself. The ovation was something else. So let's declare it again. I declare long life for myself. Say it again. And so what you have is sugar. Please set up a research team. Asking for question, you are keeping your hand. So you are going to speak now. You have to somebody go to this.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful one. I am Maximilian Chukwenye, 500 level pharmacy student. Okay, my question is, I make healthy drinks. I was the lady who gave you just that day my VC, that wowed you that day. Yes. And I want to ask, these healthy drinks we make it and we consume it within some time, max 2 weeks. But you said in South Africa, if I heard well, one of those countries, they've successfully replaced their healthy sweeteners. So how do we get healthy sweeteners in Nigeria? Are they currently in Nigeria? And how do we get to mass produce our healthy juices with healthy sweeteners, and how they would also last long healthily? Thank you.
Please, can you lower this stuff now? Healthy sweetness and preservation. Mass production, that's your question. The next, registrar.
Yes, sir. The Vice Chancellor, the guest speaker, sir. I had earlier whispered this to the guest speaker, but let me just say it openly. I observed that we have been deprived of everything sugar now. And I left beer many years ago because they say beer even contains sugar. You know, I came to soft drinks, and now I have been deprived of soft drinks again. So since there's no vacuum in nature, something must fill that gap. So what is the substitute? For instance, what's the place of honey. Can we use honey to substitute, sugar? Thank you.
Okay. The Pharmaceutical Association of Student President there, yeah. Thank you. Is that? Yes. Okay, I will give him now.
The Vice Chancellor and Principal Officers, first of all, I want to appreciate the guest speaker,
Yeah.
the Honorable Commissioner, for this wonderful speech. My question is, it's exam season, and generally as students, we have this belief that taking energy drink, I believe when I say energy drink, there's a popular brand that comes to everyone's minds, helps students stay awake, especially when we want to do overnight reading. It's already a myth that is around us as students in pharmacy. How can we combat these thoughts coming from the lecture that you just gave, that they even contain almost the same sugar content as our soda drinks? So, sir, how can we help to reduce and change this myth?
Thank you very much, President. The Dean of Fiji.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, sir. And great lecture, sir. Thank you for that lecture. Just a simple question, sir. Which will you advise? The consumption of sweeteners like saccharin or sugars? So what would be your advice? So we just be bland, no sugar. That is not possible.
Just as she asked about the saccharin, what came to mind is the Liberian that likes palm wine, which is mixed with saccharin. But the bossa wants to ask a question. And that's the last one.
Thank you so much for the very illuminating lecture. My question is from the viewpoint of the industry. Now, if we all know, and I want to believe they also know, that these sweeteners are not quite healthy, from the viewpoint of profitability, can they get alternate, I don't know what you want to call them, sweeteners, to actually, that will not dent their profitability? I mean, is it not possible? So why the insistence on using these sweeteners, SSBs, as we call them?
Thank you, please. On a like that, go ahead. You can go ahead, sir.
Sorry for cutting you, ma'am. I would answer your question when I'm going to get to as alternatives. In fact, he had mentioned one of the alternatives. But let me start from the last question. Alternative sweeteners. Why are they not using? That's the boss's question. Now, you know that these products are made on a recipe basis. In fact, there is this claim that the recipes have not been known for 100 years. I hope you all know that. The question is, why don't they want to reformulate? Practically, if you reformulate with a different sweetener, taste changes, whether you like it or not. That's the fear. Taste changes. Do you know that the taste with, if, for example, you take a specific brand of cola drink and you reduce the sugar from 6 teaspoonfuls to 3 teaspoonfuls, taste changes. Now, some of them, that's the advert. The advertorial to you is that same taste has been 100 years ago. It never changes. So they continue to drum it into your head that this is, in fact, somebody here mentioned that it is that taste. You know, if you put different colas in a cup, you can know the difference. So these people pride on the fact that this is my own taste and unique taste. That is why they are resistant to change. There are actually available sweeteners. In fact, there was this time, somebody mentioned aspartame. Okay, saccharin is mentioned. If you see the press negativity towards aspartame simply because they didn't want to move to aspartame, it causes cancer, and all those things are not true. People use food grade aspartame, even in the pharmaceutical industry, food grade level aspartame. But you know, this is an industry fight. So they always come out with that this and that. No. This one, in fact, when there is no proof. In fact, there was a study they quoted, one animal study they quoted. Nobody ever followed up that study afterwards. And everybody just went around that artificial sweeteners cause cancer. You see what they did? They moved from aspartame to all artificial sweeteners caused cancer. So now the question she asked, let me tie the answer to two of them. Is there available? There are available food grade sweeteners, but what you may say is that they may be very expensive. But you say you are doing healthy meals, isn't it? Healthy drinks, sorry. Why are you not using plant-based sweeteners? It may be expensive. Like if, for example, I want to buy a soya milk, the reason why I buy soya milk from specific people I know is that you must tell me that it was Debino you used. Debino is plant-based. I am hoping one day somebody does not go around and do an artificial sweetener for Debino. We are going to get to that very soon. You understand? Because except maybe somebody comes, grinds Debino, dries and grinds Debino, and in large quantity, you can go to North America and maybe sell it as Debino sweeteners. It is possible. But I know that there are food grade sweeteners people use. I know people who do not use free sugars, even in their baking of cake. Some people don't do that. There are diabetics that strictly tell you, don't give me any raw sugar. So these things are available. The question is, are you going to find the market? Can you go and look for it in the market? Yes, so it's available. Then the question on energy drink. Well, I can only answer that question based on the kind of person, how I live my life. You are correct. Energy drinks contain two addictive substances, sugar and caffeine. It's the caffeine that keeps you awake. The sugar gives you energy. Let me not lie. At a certain time of, I think my first and second year, I was taking coffee, but I stopped it. You know why I stopped it? It was giving me palpitations. And the after effects, after doing those things, when you come to class, you feel hazy. Now, what did I do? I used the sleep cycle. The first day, I think it was Professor Aka that taught us about REM. That's if you see the stages of sleep. If you can know the stages of sleep and know the point you can alter. If I sleep for 1 hour, after okay, let me just give my schedule. When I come back from classes at 6, after labs, I would bathe. I would eat a heavy meal. Then I will sleep. Because if I eat, I doze off. Some people use alcohol to sleep. It's at my old age now, I can take a sip of red wine, I can knock out. But when I now wake up by 9, boy, I can read till 6 the next day. 2 hours of sleep. I can read. I'll just take snack. I won't eat again that night. I'll just take biscuit. You know, this normal biscuit, chin. And walk from hostel to class. So another thing that helps me, when I finish waking up and bathe, and I walk from hostel to it's like almost like 1 kilometer. There's no sleep that's going to enter my eye again. And when I sit down, I even see the thing about reading again is there are some people that read for only 2 hours and they get everything. You know? Some of us are long readers, 5 hours, 6 hours. At least it's not the amount of time you used to read that matters. It is how well you use those time you read. So know your system. But for me, don't abuse those because those things are addictive. You can't tell me after exams you will not take those drinks. You will still take it. And you are piling up your sugar level. So let's adopt healthier methods of removing. I hope that is practical enough. It's my own experience I mentioned. Many of my classmates were even taking cola drinks. You know, cola also does that. If you take cola drinks, it should keep you awake. Some people even chew cola. Hey, chew bitter cola. No, some people use bitter cola now. Bitter cola is healthy. Is it bitter cola be Goro? Okay, which one keeps you awake? Goro. Goro. Bitter cola is not healthy. It's Goro that is healthy. You know, there are two different things. The Goro, that white one, is the healthy one. The one is one that can treat almost, in fact, that Goro has given people more than, I think in UN, almost 6 PhDs have been done on Goro. But the other one spikes blood pressure up. So the one that you break, the one we used to wow gin, our native one we used to, is it colored? Yes. That one we break. It spikes blood pressure. But that white one, that one they suck small, is the healthier cola. Yeah. Now the last question I think is the one of honey. Now, when I want to say honey, in Nigeria now there are 2 types of honey. There is sugar-laden honey, and there is honey. Let me tell you, if you want to buy original honey, if you are not buying a bottle less than 6,000, you're not buying honey. Anything you're buying is mixed. So let me assume your question is on pure
unsweetened honey. Now, do you know the beauty of honey? Somebody said, you know, this thing about price is also fun. You know, honey is not something you pour in your pap or your tea. You will take it with spoon. In fact, I like it that it's very expensive, so that when you take 1 tablespoon, it will sweeten it. So honey is sucrose now. It's sucrose in syrup. It's sugar in syrup form. You understand? But it is not as bad as free sugar in terms of grammage weight. But honey is a very good example. What I like about honey is that you can moderate. Except our people, when we go for conference, people start pouring honey. I'm like, you see, because it's free. Now you are spiking your sugar up. But if you buy that honey, that original was 6,000, 7,000. That one is well processed. You know that, but honey is a perfect alternative if you want it, because what you are taking it was still within the daily limits of the free sugar it has. So I think that I will give honey a pass mark, not saccharin. All right, I think that's all right. Thank you.
The director of entrepreneur is here. Is Professor Adebayo here? We have a honey hive here, a beehive in this, and with that honey, that honey is from our beehive here, and is the one that is handling the project in this university. We harvested the last time, and it was sold at a very expensive price and bought by now. How much? 8,000. 8,000 for that, but so the lady, our lady that produces, you can always get to Adebayo for pure undiluted honey for sweetening your products. So, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we cannot be tired of applauding our guest speaker. Can we give him another round of applause? Yeah.
The presentation of plaque to the guest speaker will be overseen by the chairman of the occasion, a very distinguished vice chancellor. Please, can we give him a hand as he actually does that?
Let me also leave this with you.
Thank you very much, our very distinguished guest speaker. Moving on now, I'd like to call on the Registrar and Secretary to the Governing Council, Friday Benji Bakare Esquire, for the vote of thanks. Please, can we applaud him?
The Vice Chancellor, sir, and Chairman of this occasion, Professor Lawrence Ikechukwu, very distinguished audience. I would like, on behalf of the Vice Chancellor and the entire university community, extend our heartfelt gratitude to everyone who has made this occasion such a huge success. First, we would like to thank Almighty God for the gift of life and for making this event the success that it has become. I extend my sincere appreciation to our charming, esteemed guest speaker, Honorable Professor Chukwuemeka Michael Ubaka, for sharing invaluable insights and expertise in the field of pharmacy. Your thought-provoking presentation has only broadened our understanding, but also finally convinced me personally to reduce my sugar intake and replace with honey. Can you please put your hands together for him? We are most grateful to you, sir, for finding time out of a very busy schedule to attend to this lecture. I would also like to express our sincere thanks and gratitude to our distinguished guests and participants, you, the faculty, the staff, the students, for your esteemed presence. We appreciate you all. Thank you once again for coming. We look forward to your continued support and participation in future events. God bless you all.
So before we take the closing prayer, just a few announcements, please. At the end of the closing prayer, we're going to have the university anthem and the national anthem. After that, we are expected to be upstanding still as the chairman of the occasion and the guest speaker and other members of management here at the stage exit for a group photograph at the foyer. Once that happens, all our other guests for the lecture are encouraged to quietly exit the hall. We thank you once again for being here with us for this annual lecture of the College of Pharmacy, and we wish that you have a very wonderful and a productive rest of the day. It's on that note that I would like to welcome to the microphone the Chief Imam of the University, Dr. Adebayo, to kindly come and take the closing prayer. May we be upstanding, please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا صراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. We thank you, O Lord, for your guidance and protection on each and every one of us. When we were coming here, it was the protection of God, the mercy of God that enveloped all of us. And we are thankful for that favor on us. We are about to leave this place under the protection of Almighty. And we ask him to continue to protect each and every one of us, including our guest lecturer, our dean, our honorable vice chancellor, our chancellor, and every member of the management. May God continue to protect us. Thank you, O Lord. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamu ala al-mursalin. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Please kindly remain standing as the chairman of the occasion leads the team out for a group photograph at the foyer. You can exit using the back door, please. You can exit using the